the quorum call be vitiated?
Without objection.
Madam President, I rise today to urge my colleagues to pass the important national security package that's in front of us. This will reaffirm our nation's commitment to our partners across the globe. Now, earlier this week, many of us felt very strongly that we should move forward on the combination of bills that Senator Langford and Senator Murphy, Senator Sinema had negotiated. I strongly supported that bipartisan compromise, worked with them on a portion of the bill regarding our Afghan allies that had served with our troops, and I was really impressed by the thorough nature of their negotiations. We know how important that bill was for our own national security. It would have given the president emergency authority to shut down the border when our border agents are overwhelmed. It would have made changes to our asylum system. It would have addressed processing issues and backlogs. It would have actually expanded legal immigration for things like work permits and visas. I'm grateful that the package we're considering today does include the bipartisan bill that I'm part of to declare fentanyl trafficking a national emergency and allow us to impose tough sanctions on criminal organizations in fentanyl supply chain hubs. But I will note that this bill, because the other piece of this regarding fentanyl was not actually included yet in this bill. That would be the resources that we need to crack down on fentanyl trafficking at our border and ports of entry. So not only was the bill that our colleagues sadly voted down good on giving the emergency authority to the president on the border to protect our own nation's security, something they had been asking for, but it also did a very important thing when it came to fentanyl. Why is this such a problem? In Hennepin County alone, in the state of Minnesota, the sheriff recently seized enough fentanyl to kill every single person in that county, the biggest county in my state. And we are seeing similar things to that across our nation. So what this bill would have done, the original bill would have done with the negotiation, is that it would have actually given modern day technology, cutting edge technology to our ports of entry, all ports of entry, including airports and the like, including help we may need on the northern border, the Canadian border, when it comes to things like fentanyl. So that is why I hope that someday our colleagues will reconsider and join us in advocating for strong border security, as well as for the work that needs to be done for the fentanyl epidemic. So the original package, as we know, is not being considered. But we also know how important it is to go forward when it comes to our leadership around the world. Whether that means standing with our allies after the terrorist attack in Israel, whether it means making sure that humanitarian aid gets to innocent people in Gaza and across the world, or whether it comes to Ukraine. And I did want to spend some time talking about Ukraine, as I've been there a number of times in the last few years. First time I went was actually with Senator McCain and Senator Graham during the first invasion back in January of 2017. In fact, I spent New Year's Eve of 2016 on the border with Senator Graham and Senator McCain and the former president of Ukraine. It was there that I learned so much about the Ukrainian troops. Even back then, there were snipers killing the troops at unbelievable rates, but they kept going back to protect their own homeland. Fast forward, of course, we see an even more significant invasion by Vladimir Putin and Russia once again. And just as Vladimir Putin has shown his true colors, the Ukrainian people have shown theirs, defending their democracy in brilliant blue and yellow. They have succeeded in taking back a number of lands that the Russians had seized. And that is because of their unbreakable resolve, yes, but it is also because America took the lead, joined by dozens and dozens and dozens of allies across the world, from Japan to South Korea to Europe. Now is not the time to give up. In the words of the NATO Secretary General, the war has become a battle for ammunition. Russia is firing nearly 10,000 rounds a day, while Ukraine is only managing 2,000. Our friends need our support more than ever. In my last visit to Ukraine with Senator Portman in the middle of the war, we visited Irpin. We saw the bombed out maternity wards, the apartment buildings reduced to rubble. We saw the mass graves. Those atrocities have been met, of course, with the resilience of the Ukrainian people. The chef cooking meals for the troops on the front lines. The nurse who traded in scrubs for camo and now serves as a field medic. The martial arts teacher leading an 11-man recon unit to keep his village safe. Those are people that stood up, and our country must stand with that democracy. We must never forget President Zelensky's words on that first evening in September, when everyone had counted them out, when all the pundits thought Russia would just roll over their country with their tanks and with their planes. What did President Zelensky do? He went down to the street corner and he said this. He said, "We are here." Those simple words, "We are here." Well, that's our job now. We have to say the same thing, that we are here for them. U.S. aid has empowered the Ukrainian people to take back the territory that is rightfully theirs. It has saved lives. It has given families hope that there will be a future. But not if we turn our backs on them right now. Throughout our nation's history, we have been there for free nations across the globe, and we must be there again. So that gets to something that's not in the bill right now. It was in the original compromise agreement, and just like Ukraine, just like the Pacific, just like the help to Central Command and the help that we must give given that our own troops have been attacked in the Mideast, is the covenants that we make. And I'm here talking about the Afghan refugees, 80,000 of them approximately in the United States. They served alongside our troops. They served as interpreters. They served as intel gatherers. They put their own lives and their family lives at risk. And they've been here. They've been in the United States. And that's why a bipartisan group of senators have, for now, sadly, years, been working on a simple bill to make it clear that they are no longer in limbo. And many conservatives are supporting this bill. I am filing a bipartisan amendment that was just filed with Senator Moran. I thank him for his leadership as a ranking Republican on the Veterans Committee, joining me on this bill, along with Senator Graham, who's a longtime lead author of our base bill on the Afghan refugees. Again, Senator Graham, ranking member on the Judiciary Committee. Senator Wicker, Republican of Mississippi, ranking lead Republican on the Armed Services Committee, is filing this amendment with me. Senator Cassidy, Senator Mullen, Senator Tillis, Senator Murkowski, Senator Crapo, Senator Rounds, Senator Capito, Senator Coons and Blumenthal, and many other Democrats as well. We have that magic number to get over what we call our 60-vote threshold. We will win this vote, but we will win more than a vote if we are allowed to advance this amendment by both sides as they negotiate which amendments go forward. We will be more than just getting a vote. We will be standing up for keeping our covenants. I'm thinking of the people that I have met, the Afghans, over the last year. The women I met with who served in the Afghan National Army's female tactical platoon. Our troops relied heavily on this platoon during the war, as our soldiers pursued missions hunting down ISIS combatants on unforgiving terrain and freeing prisoners from the grips of the Taliban. These women had their backs. They worked with our military support team and facilitated discussions between our soldiers and the Afghan women that they crossed paths with in the field. After the war, they and so many others fled Afghanistan to build a safer, brighter future in America. One of the platoon's commanders even said that once she gets her green card, her plan is to join the U.S. Army. That's right. Even knowing everything she sacrificed for our country, leaving her family behind, putting herself in peril, she would do it all over again if we gave her the chance. I'm in awe of her grit and her patriotism. Unfortunately, and this is a big unfortunately, she and countless others like hers are living in limbo, and it is our turn to do right by the people who stood with us. When the Hmong and the Vietnamese came to this country, I know this well because my state has a very large Hmong population. We didn't leave them in limbo and tell them, well, you're standing here on ground of the United States of America after helping us out, but there's a trap door under you because every year you have to reapply and we don't know what's really going to happen if you have to go back. Are we going to send these people who stood with our troops back to the arms of the Taliban? Or are we going to do what's right? This bill, which I have worked on with numerous Republican leaders, has a heavy-duty vetting process. And I remind my colleagues that the vast majority of these people are here already. They're on our soil. We already know what they've been doing. In fact, we know that one of them sadly was murdered, an interpreter who was working as a driver late at night in the state of Virginia. I don't know if that's what he would have been doing if he wasn't in limbo, but that happened on our soil. So all we're saying is that they be vetted and that they be able to get out of this legal limbo and treated with the respect that they deserve. Time and time again, our nation's history has shown us that people that stand with us in combat don't diminish America, they strengthen America. Our efforts has earned the support of more than 60 organizations, including With Honor Action, including No One Left Behind, including Operation Recovery, the American Legion. I was just with them yesterday as Senator Moran and I and Coons and Blumenthal and others discussed this bill. The VFW, this is a major priority for the VFW, as well as some of the nation's most revered military leaders that have lended their name. At one point earlier last year, I went through hundreds of names of generals, retired generals, who led our troops in times of war, who support this bill. But today I mention Mike Mullen, Admiral Mike Mullen, William Craven, Generals Richard Myers of the Air Force, Joseph Dunford from the Marine Corps, and Stanley McChrystal from the Army. Maybe we should listen to them when we think about how we treat those who save the lives of our troops, how we must keep our covenants, because in the next conflict, when we're standing up for democracies or standing up for American interests, what do you think people are going to say if they think they help our country and our troops make literal individual promises to them and then they come back and they don't know what's going to happen to them? Some of them are in hiding right now across the world because they know that they or their families will be killed if this continues. We've built such a broad coalition of support because Americans from across the political spectrum agree that it is our moral obligation. When I'm at home, vets come up to me, as I know they do to you, Madam President. They come up to me about all kinds of things. They always have, about their service, about their benefits, about what's happening with health care and burn pits, and we've advanced so many things to help them. But I have never seen anything more emotional for our soldiers that have served in Afghanistan than this, because they know the people that saved their lives or stood with them deserve better than this. What we are asking for is a vote on this bipartisan amendment. And we know we can pass this amendment because we have enough sponsors on it to pass this amendment. This is the perfect bill. Why? Because it's a national security package. It is about our national security. It's about that. It's about standing with our partners. And most of all, it is about showing the world when that United States of America makes a promise, makes a covenant, we keep it. Madam President, I yield the floor. Thank you.